Hello everybody and welcome to Jeff the Pharmacist. It's an honor to have you here. So I want to talk about something I've had floating around in my brain, and I know it's not all that clever, but I just wanted to kind of address it. I'm not a nutritional scientist, I'm not a nutritionist. I don't really agree with most nutritionists as far as the diets that they teach. They usually follow the federal guidelines, which if you know anything about the federal government, the federal guidelines are bound to be politically motivated or somehow influenced by well-moneyed interest groups. It doesn't make them all bad, but it's something you need to consider. You know, is the dietary guidelines in the United States, are they at all based in reality, or is it just based on kind of who's sort of going to be benefiting from that, and is it really in your best interest to follow them? So my personal opinion is that you probably have to venture out like Lois and Clark into the realm of diet and kind of make your own decision. Definitely, I wouldn't follow My Plate. I think My Plate's ridiculous. But I wanted to ask a silly question. So, what is better for breakfast? Breyers vanilla ice cream or Honey Nut Cheerios? So Honey Nut Cheerios had the heart healthy check and all this stuff because of having zero fat. So I honestly don't know if fat is good for you or if it's bad for you, but I'm pretty sure it's not as bad as it has been portrayed. And I'm pretty sure that sugar is a lot worse than it's been portrayed, and carbohydrates are probably worse than they have been portrayed in the media and kind of how we were taught in school and everything else. Just carbs being the should carbs even be the largest macronutrient in your diet? I think that's probably just based on their availability, how easy it is to make them. That's sort of what fueled the modern world, is carbohydrates from wheat. So, but is that the best thing for you? I don't know. I probably would say that definitely sugar is not healthy. Like definitely it's good to avoid sugar. I limit my carbohydrates because personally I found that's the only way that I can lose weight. So I lost 60 pounds doing a kind of a low carb diet. I mean, it wasn't even as strict as a ketogenic diet. It was just, I just avoid carbs, and the more carbs that I avoided, the less hungry I would get. So not everybody's like that. Some people, doesn't have that effect on them. They have, some people can eat like a bowl of cereal and not feel hungry anymore until lunch. But for me, that just makes me want to eat 10 bowls of cereal. And maybe that's just my personality, but if I have eggs, bacon, no toast or anything, I'm good till like 2 o'clock. I don't know why that is. I think it has to do with the satiating nature of fats and protein. Hopefully I'm not contributing to some kind of terrible buildup of saturated fat and triglycerides. But there's a whole argument, and I know that the science behind the low fat concept is not that good. So I wanted to talk about just doing a back-to-back comparison of Honey Nut Cheerios and Breyers vanilla ice cream. So I wanted to say, part of where this is stemming from is if you're looking at the kind of the rise in obesity in the United States, it started to rise with the low-fat movement, and it's gotten worse and worse and worse, and people are basically exploding. So I had a theory that, so I was about 250 pounds. I figured I would just keep my weight at 250, and then the rest of America would just catch up with me. And that's almost how it has kind of how it's becoming. So diabetes is becoming extremely prevalent, especially it's getting more and more prevalent in younger kids. Kids used to never get type 2 diabetes. It was not a concern, but their diets are just, some of the diets are just insane, and it's getting kind of out of control. So could you give your kids Breyers vanilla ice cream for breakfast is that much different than Honey Nut Cheerios. So I wanted to look at the kind of the label. So I'm looking at serving size of Honey Nut Cheerios is 3/4 of a cup, which isn't that much. It's 110 calories, and they say if you add a half cup of skim milk, it's 150 calories. So there's no fat, and that's why it got the heart healthy check. There's 22 grams of carbohydrate, and that's really the substance of what it is. It's carbohydrate. If you look at the ingredients in Honey Nut Cheerios, it's whole grain, oats, sugar, oat bran, cornstarch, honey, brown sugar, syrup, salt, tripotassium phosphate, which is a preservative, rice bran oil, canola oil, and natural almond flavor, and then there's all these vitamins. So sometimes I said that Cheerios or a product like my favorite used to be Captain Crunch. It's almost like a bowl of ice cream and a multivitamin. So that's kind of what Cheerios feels like. So really the whole substance of it from a macronutrient standpoint, so macronutrients are just carbs, fats, or protein. They make up your diet basically, and everything else is vitamins and minerals, trace elements. So total carbohydrates is 22 grams and 9 grams of sugar. So carbohydrates basically at some point become sugar in your blood. Sugar is like the most refined. It's as close to the glucose that gets into your blood as possible. Carbohydrates have to become digested, and they say the more complicated the carbohydrates are, the more fiber that's in your basically in the meal that you're eating, the slower that the carbs will be digested. So that's why, like, an apple's better than a Jolly Rancher. But basically that all becomes sugar at some point. So it's a lot of sugar really in the morning. And for someone like me, that makes me hungry. So let's look up Breyers ice cream. So Breyers ice cream is a half a cup. So it's similar, it's not as much as the cereal, but cereal is also a lot more air. 7 grams of fat. So with fat comes cholesterol, and 14 grams of sugar. So it has more sugar, but if you look at skim milk, so this is just a generic kind of label for skim milk. So sugar has about 6 grams in a half a cup of skim milk. So add that to Honey Nut Cheerios and you get 15 grams of sugar. So it actually has more sugar in it than Breyers vanilla ice cream. So the whole thing is basically sugar. So I'm really not sure if Breyers would be much different than having Cheerios in the morning. I would say you're probably better off not having Cheerios, Honey Nut Cheerios, or Breyers ice cream. Better off would be to have something that has less sugar in it, because I think sugar and carbohydrate, especially sugar, is kind of fueling this rise in diabetes. I mean, you could say it's general caloric intake has gone up, but I think a lot of people increase their sugar intake, and that makes them hungrier. That's what it has done to me, and I can say that food used to be kind of almost like a drug for me. Like I'd eat something and then want to eat it again, and I was like always eating. And you know, I like all kind of food, but eating lots of carbs and lots of sugar for me made me super hungry. And the way that I was able to lose weight might be different than the way you're able to lose weight or maintain a healthy weight. But that's kind of what worked for me. And I don't think from a sugar standpoint, actually, Breyers ice cream and Honey Nut Cheerios are the same. So So I'm kind of just being silly with this video. I'm not recommending really that you eat ice cream in the morning. I really don't recommend Honey Nut Cheerios either. Food that's better for me, at least, is food that's a little bit more substantial. So I eat like eggs and bacon. I don't eat toast or anything, any carbs with it, and that seems to help me stay satiated, especially in the pharmacy. I try not to snack at work. It's something that I used to do all the time because work can get boring, work can get stressful. Food is a crutch for that. But my impulses are definitely controlled a little better with a lower carb diet. So I'm just trying to be silly in this video. I'm not, I'm not giving you diet advice. I'm just saying, what is it even that different? Honey Nut Cheerios versus Breyers ice cream with skim, or Honey Nut Cheerios with skim milk, is that different than Breyers ice cream? And I think the question actually comes down to how bad is fat? Is fat that bad? Should the daily allowance of fat be higher? The daily recommended allowance of carbs be lower? What do you guys think? So if you found this video interesting, please give me a thumbs up. Please comment. I'd love to hear what you guys think. I think diet advice, whatever, is super controversial. So if you have a comment, leave it. I'd be happy if you think everything that I said is nonsense. That's cool, but it did work for me. I did lose 60 pounds. I've kept it off almost a year now. So I hope you guys find this interesting. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and please subscribe. It'd be an honor to have you as a subscriber. I want to thank you guys for watching. Thanks a lot.